There are many deck profiles that you can find on YouTube, and these can be used as a base for your own decks that you want to build. Not many Yu-Gi tubers will take these decks into the wilds, however, and show you how to play these decks. This is where my series comes in. I may not be the best player, I'm just trying to get good at the decks I showcase to you, Timmy, because I know you want to build a new deck, but you're not sure on how good it is. So, let me show you the deck profile and how it performs at my locals. This is Get Good At. I have uploaded a deck profile already, but you can see it on your screen now. This is the profile that I took to my locals, and if you want to know more about the deck, please follow the link in the description of this video. The deck profile will go more in depth about the card choices and combos, and I'll also give you some budget options in the video. And if that is helpful, please remember to leave that video a like. Okay, let's get into some duels. Match 1, and we're up against Mathmech. And when this archetype came out, I was actually quite interested in it at the time. It was a go in second OTK deck. I love my go in second OTK decks, but this deck is definitely a lot cooler. So game 1 I could have used Ash on the XCs to stop the search for Super Factorial, but I kind of forgot what all these cards do anyway, and kind of shotgunned it on the Lady Debug. On my turn, I suppose I could have used Abomination Prison first to bait out the trap, but I'm not too sure my opponent would have used the counter trap if he had Ash anyway, so not a lot I could have done in game 1. Game 2, I made my opponent go first, as I knew Mathmech could OTK quite easily, and I kind of wanted to psych my opponent out by thinking I was going to make him go second. This was still kind of a dumb idea. He was able to set the same board anyway, but if I went first I probably would have sided in my Artifact Scythe and Sanctums to stop him going into the extra deck. So on my turn, after using Prankratops, what I should have done is slap down the Lightning Storm, destroying the rest of his back row, and making my turn much easier to play because I definitely had a lot of combos. But yeah, that definitely cost me the match there.
I'll have to ask my accountant about that.
Match 2, and we are playing against Grand Marju. Unfortunately for my opponent, he doesn't draw very well this match. And that day, I must have been an elite sniper. I was sniping out all the danger cards in different matches, and you'll see that later on. So, game 1, he makes me go first. I kind of bricked and made a silly play, I guess. On his turn, when he swings over my wolf and destroys it, I summon the abominable Unchained Soul from my hand and pop the Barrel Sword, and then he walks over the abominable Unchained Soul with the Grand Manager. My turn, I did top the chamber, but also for the rest of the day I just wanted to put this out there. I didn't really read the Unchained Soul of Disaster properly. I thought all the dogs added from graveyard to hand, but the main deck dog actually summons to the field from the graveyard, and I think that this comes up later on. Anyway, it kind of matters that he doesn't attack over my Disaster with the Grand Marju, just because next turn I could then link summon with the Disaster and his Grand Marju into Soul of Rage, but he does summon Thanos Dragon anyway. On his second turn, he activates Desires, and then normal summons Gren, uses a Bigfoot, which of course I snipe, and he attempts to pop my Soul of Rage. I do train the Soul of Rage and link Thanos just because I didn't want to get the negate out of the Thanos Dragon as well. It didn't really matter. This was kind of stupid as well actually, because he could just discard a card, which was of course another danger card, to negate and then get more resources with the danger card anyway. But as I said, I could have used Rage Effect just to add something. It really didn't matter at that point. He definitely had that game won. Game 2, I am going second, and my opponent bricked quite hard. He does use a Dimension Shifter on me, and this is kind of a problem, as all my cards are now banished rather than being sent to graveyard, but this doesn't stop the destruction effects, so this is why I also main the Dimension Shifter. So yeah, I pop the chamber, and use the effect to summon Abominable Unchained Soul. Go into battle phase and do 4,500 points of damage because I'm going second. Go into main 2, set an additional card and pass. And then in his second turn, he draws a Chupacabra, attempts to use it, I snipe it, and this ends game 2 as he doesn't really have anything else in hand. I think he did say he had another Dimension Shifter, 2 trade-ins, and another useless card. So unfortunately for him, but good for us. Game 3, I am going first, and I do open Pot of Extravagance. I use the Abomination Prison then to add Aeropath, set a card and pop it with the added Aeropath to summon it. I then use the float effects of the trap I destroyed to summon the Sarama, which then resets the trap card, destroying Aeropath again floating. I absolutely love this archetype. So I summon the Unchained Soul of Disaster off the Aeropath and link into Rage with the Disaster and Sarama. I then normal summon Rakir because I haven't normal summoned yet, and set an additional back row and end my turn. My opponent does chain Orochi and special summons it in my end phase. So on my opponent's turn, he uses trade in to discard Bigfoot, of course, and tries to pop my Unchained Soul of Rage, but I do chain that and link Orochi and the Unchained Soul of Rage to make Unchained Soul of Anguish. My opponent then does use Pot of Desires, banishing even more cards, and then uses Mind Control on my Link 3. I think I probably could have popped it with the Rakir to stop him from gaining it, but you can see why later on. I'm glad I didn't. So he then goes to normal summon the Grand Maju, and this thing is big, he's banished quite a lot of cards already. Followed by the Grand Maju normal summon, he then uses the Danger Chupacabra and does summon it. So with a danger monster on the field, he uses Danger Response Team and attempts to add the Chupacabra back to hand and add my Rakir back to hand, but I do chain the Escape of the Unchained, pop in my Rakir and his Grand Maju, but the Chupacabra does get added back to the hand. And then of course Rakir floats into Aruha. My opponent then uses the graveyard effect of Danger Response Team. By discarding the Chupacabra, he adds a spell back to the bottom of his deck, and the Chupacabra special summons the Bigfoot from the graveyard. He then follows up with a Twin Twister to pop my back row, which I then chain the set Super Polymerization going into Starve Venom Fusion Dragon with the Bigfoot and Soul of Anguish. This was such an important play right here. My opponent then passes his turn, and on my turn I use Pot of Extravagance first, which then gets hit by my opponent's last card in hand, which is Ash. It doesn't matter though, as I already have Sarama in hand, being able to float nicely. It would have been game as well if it wasn't for the Orochi in his graveyard. My opponent does draw for his turn, but he doesn't have anything left, and I take game 3 and the match. Match number 3, we're against Generator. This is a very slow and grindy matchup, and Unchained normally does have a great grind game, but unfortunately I didn't predict certain cards later on in the video that you'll see. So game 1, my opponent is going first and didn't have a good hand. He just activated the field spell and set a card. On my turn, I did Ash the field spell to stop him from summoning from deck, and then I lightning stormed his entire back row, to which he then chained his set card being Monstrosities to summon a 3k wall from his hand. Luckily I had one more ant being Dinoressa Pankratops and got rid of that wall. The only real play I had left was to summon Rakir from my hand and poke for 1500 attack. On his turn, he summons the Jet Synchron and starts to do the whole Link Cross shenanigans. to which I have a really nice interaction with Rakea and Nibiru. If I go Chainlink 1 Nibiru, Chainlink 2 Rakea to pop itself, this stops me from summoning the Rakea as I can only summon fiends, but it still tributes everything on the field for the Nibiru. So there's nothing left on his field, and with no follow-up plays, he just ends his turn. I do on my turn top deck the Unchained Sarama, but he unfortunately has Effect Veiler in hand to stop me from really doing anything else, so I just poke for another 1500. On my opponent's turn, he does summon the level 4 and uses the effect to summon Mardell from deck, which then also adds the field spell from his deck to hand, and he didn't want to attack Sarama because he knew I could just float anyway. So back on to my turn, he uses the field spell to summon a bunch of tokens and Lopter. That's 4 summons. I've still got Nibiru in hand. So I activate my Pot of Extravagance, and my opponent chains Lopter, tributing a token to summon Ha from the deck, and after the Extravagance resolves and I draw 2 cards, Ha chains and I chain Nibiru, wiping his board clean. Does give him a massive token with 8,400 attack and defense, but it was okay because I had Unchained effects to pop off and go for game. Game 2, I'm going first and have the good old T-set pass because I was expecting to go second. My opponent doesn't make calamities and doesn't attack my face down as he knows Unchained floats, so he passes it back to me. In my draw phase, he does activate the field spell to summon Ha from the deck, but I really wanted him to summon tokens just so I could use the token collector I sided in, but I guess this wasn't needed also because he could have just chained calamities to negate the effects of earth monsters, which also would have been a problem since I had Pancratops in hand. So he activates Ha effect and I send the Pancratops. But looking back, I do wish I sent the token collector instead, just so I could summon the Pancratops to the field to do some other plays, because I did have Dark Ruler no more, so I would have shut off the calamities effectively. Yeah, there's loads more I could have done a little bit better. Unfortunately, we did lose game 2. Game 3, I go first and set up an interesting board with plenty of back row. I did side in Imperial Order, which would have been huge. Absolutely huge in this game, especially on his turn when he slaps down the Red Eyes Fusion and makes Dragoon. And unfortunately, Unchained cannot out Dragoon very easily. I didn't side in the Super Polys either, so we lost this game and the match. Match number 4, and we're against Dogmatica Spiral. This deck seemed to be quite bricky. That and I also sniped 3 out of 4 danger effects this match, so yeah, you could probably guess how this match went. Game 1 he was able to set up Dragoon and we can't out that. Game 2 I make him go first and he just T-sets with an additional back row. On my turn I'm able to combo off and deal a decent chunk of damage. Back to his turn then, he is able to summon out the Relinquished Anima and attempts to suck up one of my monsters. However, I do chain the Sided Super Polymerization and my phone run out of battery. But I do win game 2 and 3 just because of Super Poly. It's a super good card now and I think I'll be maining this over the Dark Ruler no more. As after testing online for a bit after this locals, it was always live and always really good card. There's a lot of card decks now playing the Red Eyes Dragoon, so Super Poly is really good. Match number 5 was actually against Megalith, and because the battery on my phone ran out, I wasn't able to obviously record this match, but we won in game 3 due to time. I was able to do a slither amount of damage. I think in game 3 I used Dimension Shifter. He did set up a wall, but Dimension Shifter was absolutely clutch. He absolutely crushed the game and kind of just won me because of that. So I finished this locals with a score of 3 wins and 2 losses, and thanks to the tiebreakers, that was enough to get me 5th place. I'm super happy with this result and happy with the deck. I'm going to make a few changes to the main deck, especially at the time of editing. Harpy's Feather Duster was released from the ban list to 1. So even though I made a deck profile recently, I'll definitely be updating it with new cards, and maybe even mixing in another archetype, one that won't be releasing for a while, but one I'm really excited for. But yeah, that's basically the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. It took me a very long time to edit and put this together, so I'd really appreciate it if you leave a like on this video and comment GGA, just so I know that you made it to the end of this video. A few more things I want to cover. The area I live in has gone into a local lockdown, so I won't be able to go into any Yu-Gi-Oh! Locals for the foreseeable. Not only that, Konami has stopped all real-life competitive events. So to complete this series, or to continue it I should say, I'd have to play online for a while. So that's kind of the next topic I wanted to discuss with you, viewer. Would you watch me play these games live if I stream them on Twitch? It's something I've been thinking about doing recently anyway, live streaming games on Twitch. So leave your thoughts on that in the comments, and what deck you think I should try to get good at next. There is a few deck ideas I have, so I'll leave them in the description of this video once I have them all planned out. But yeah, I also do have a plan of deck profiles to come out soon, especially with the new ban list that just released. So make sure you're subscribed to the channel to see those deck profiles and to watch me get good at them. Anyway, thanks again for watching. Hope you have a great day, and I'll see you guys in the next video.